Dai dai da dai, yai dai da dai dai da da dai, yai dai dai dai, yai dai da dai, yai da da dai dai, yai dai dai, yai yai dai 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 dai. Yai da 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 da. Yai da 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 da. Yai da da. Yai da da da. Yai da 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 da. Yai da 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 da. Yai dai da dai dai, yai da dai, yai dai dai dai, yai dai dai da da dai dai da da dai, yai da da dai dai da da dai, yai da dai da da dai dai. Yai dai dai da da dai dai da da dai, yai da da dai dai da da dai, yai da dai dai da dai dai, yai dai dai, yai da dai da da dai dai, yai da dai da dai 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 dai. Yai dai dai ya da dai dai ya da dai yai ya da dai dai da da dai yai da dai dai da dai dai yai dai dai ya da dai dai ya da dai ya da dai dai da da dai dai da da dai da dai dai yai dai dai yai da dai da da dai dai. Yai da dai da da dai 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 dai, ya da dai 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 dai. Shabbat Shalom. Welcome to TVT. We start our Kabbalat Shabbat, lighting Shabbat candles, and trying to bring some light to this wonderful moment. I'd like to invite Sophia and Brianna to light Shabbat candles. You can find the blessing on page 120. Amen. Shabbat Shalom. It's the rabbi. O source of light and truth, creator of the eternal law of goodness, help us to find the knowledge by which to live. Lead us to take the words we shall speak into our hearts and our lives. Bless all who entered this sanctuary in need, all who bring the offerings of their hearts. May our worship lead us to acts of kindness, peace, and love. And trying to focus our hearts to welcome Shabbat, we remember that Shabbat was given to us with a deep love. You can find Dodi Lee on page 129.
Dodi Lee Vani Lo Haroel Bashoshanim Dodi
Anilo Aroe Basho Shanim Dodili Ekuteret Mor Morune Ona Mekuteret Morune Ona Anilo Aroe Basho Shanim Dodi Li. We start with the Sons of Kabbalah Shabbat. We remember our partnership in the creative action. We remember our commitment to celebrate and to come to welcome Shabbat with joy. We sing Lechura Lana on page 130, followed by Shiru La Adonai on page 131.
Lechun ranana Ladonai Naria Letzor Yishenu
Nekat mafanav betoda
Bizmirot
Nariyalo Shiro Ladonai Shir Chadash Shiro Ladonai Kol haaretz Shiro Ladonai Basru Shemo Basru miyom leyom Yeshuat Sapru Vagohim Kebodo Bechol Hamim Niflaot Yadai Ki Gadol Adonai Orai Meod Norao Al Kol Elohim Yadai Ki Kol Elohim Elil שמיים עשה, עוד בהדר לפניו, עוש בית תפארת במקדשו. יאי די 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 די, ישמחו השמיים בתגלה, את ידה די 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 מים. אומנו יעלו שדי וכל אשר יאי די 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 ay dai 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 ay dai 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 ay dai 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 ay dai 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 ay dai 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 ay dai 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 ay dai 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 ya la dai la ya dai dai Shabbat Shalom Shabbat Shalom Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, yay, 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 Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom. If you feel like you want to move your body, I know it sounds strange, but you can do it. You can do it. You have complete freedom to do that, especially in the synagogue. Remember that every morning we remind ourselves that we connect with God with our bodies. So when we are davening Friday night, we try to bring our bodies and our voices and our spirits together. In Shabbat, we have the particular opportunity to each of us bring his own sound, and together we become a melody. On page 134, Sa'amru la Adonai.
Sa'amru la Adonai bechino, bechino.
Our sages compare Lecha Dodi, each of the verses of Lecha Dodi, with steps in a stairway. We try to go through the stairs and to connect with our spirituality. We usually do that in 9 steps. Here at TBT we do that in 5 because we go fast, we jump a little bit. We sing Lechadodi, the first, the second, the fifth, and the ninth verse. The sixth and the ninth. Thank you, Gabi. Verse. You can find Lechadodi and welcome together Shabbat, the bride, on page 138. Shabbat, B'nei Shabbat, Negam Elai, Yadadadadai Lechadodi, Yadadadadai Likrat Kala, Yadadadadai B'nei Shabbat, B'nei Shabbat, Negam Elai. Yadadadadai likrat kala, Yadadadadai b'nei Shabbat, B'nei Shabbat, Nekav elai, Yadadadadai lechadodi, Yadadadadai likrat kala, Yadadadadai b'nei Shabbat, B'nei Shabbat, Nekav elai, Likrat kalama, Lechuven elcha, Yimekor Abaracha, Erosh Mikedem, Nesucha, Sof Maaseh, B'machshavat Gila, Yadadadadai lechadodi, Yadadadadai likrat kala, Yadadadadai b'nei Shabbat, B'nei Shabbat, Nekav elai, Yadadadadai lechadodi, Yadadadadai likrat kala, Yadadadadai b'nei Shabbat, B'nei Shabbat, Nekav elai. Yadadai, 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 Itoreri, ki ba'orech komi ori, shilvaveri, kirot Adonai, halayk migla, lechadodi likrat kala, yadalai, b'nei Shabbat nekav elai. Lechai doidi likrat kala, yadalai, b'nei Shabbat nekav elai, lo ולא תיגעלמי, מה תשתוכחי ומה תהמי, רק יחסו אני אעמי, ונבנתה עיר על תילה. לחי דודי לקראת קלה, ידלי, 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 בני שבת נקבלה. לחי דודי לקראת קלה, ידלי, 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 בני שבת נקבלה. בואי ושלום, עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה. אוי קלה, אוי קלה, לך דודי לקראת קלה, ידלי, 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 בני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קלה, ידלי, 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 בני שבת נקבלה. Somebody asked me a few weeks ago why it takes me so long to finish the Boy Kala. Well, because when I close my eyes, I try to see a bride or the queen, depends each week. Coming into, sometimes I'm more with the queen, sometimes I'm more bride-oriented. But that's the moment in which I know it's strange, Natasha, but that's the moment in which you close your eyes and you let your imagination to connect with your spirit, and this wonderful thing happens. So we have Welcome Shabbat, and it's an opportunity to turn to anybody who's sitting next to you and to say Shabbat Shalom, to welcome each other. I welcome you, Peter. So this is Rabbi Peter Levy, who came all the way from Aliso Viejo. Baruch haba. Welcome. Shabbos. Chávez, de Argentina, ¿cierto? Baruch haba, welcome, hermano. Baruch haba. Shabbat shalom. So, and now that we have welcomed Shabbat and we have welcomed each other, but we'll keep welcoming people when we finish our service. Keep doing that. That's wonderful. It feels incredible. We dedicate to Shabbat a wonderful song. Before we turn into the Ma'ariv service, our night service, we stop one more second to embrace Shabbat, and we dedicate to Shabbat a wonderful song, Mismor Shir Leyom HaShabbat, on page 140.
Mismor Shir Leyom HaShabbat.
You have gladdened me by your deeds, Adonai. I shout for joy at your handiwork. How great are your works, how very subtle your designs. A brute cannot know, a fool cannot understand this. The righteous bloom like a date palm. They stream like cedar in Lebanon, planted in the house of Adonai. They flourish in the courts of our God. Tzaddik katamar yifrach, ke'eres balvado miskeh, shetulim bebet Adonai, bechatzrot Eloheinu yafrichu od ינובון בשיבה, דשנים ברעננים יהיו, להגיד כי ישר אדוני, צורי ולא עוולה תעבור. We turn our Sidurim to page 144 to separate between Kabbalat Shabbat and Arvit Shel Shabbat with Chetzi Kaddish. Please rise for Barechu on page 146. Baruch Adonai המבורך לעולם ועד. Da 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 da. be seated. And we read together in English on page 148. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God.
Ruler of the universe, and speaks the evening into
being.
skillfully opens the gates, thoughtfully alters the time and changes the seasons, and arranges the stars in their courses according to one.
Creator of day and night, rooting light away from darkness and darkness from light, transforming day into night and distinguishing one from the other. Adonai Tzebaot is your name. Ever living God, may your reign continually over us into eternity. Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings on evening. Baruch atah Adonai, Ma'ariv Haravim. Now we try to focus on love and our connection with our spirits, with our Shema, and with God. You can find Avat Olam on page 150, followed by the Shema on page 152. And we will stop in the middle for 1 second between the Avat Olam and the Shema. We take a deep breath, and we will move forward into the Shema. Avat Olam, Beit Israel, Amcha ahavta, Amcha ahavta, Torah u'mitzvot, חוקים ומשפטים, אותנו לימדת, אותנו לימדת. על כן אדוני אלוהינו בשוכבנו ובקומנו נשיח בחוקיך ונשמח בדברי תורתך ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד, כי הם חיינו באורך ימינו, ובהם נגי יומם בלילה, נגי יומם בלילה. באהבך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל. You can turn your page. You can start by closing your eyes and trying to feel and sit comfortable in your chair. Let's take a deep breath. Take 1 more second to become one. And whenever you feel, you can join to the Shema. Shema Israel Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad.
בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה
Please join.
אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושידנתם לבניך, ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוקך ובקומך, וקשרתם להוד
על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך. למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, ויתן קדושים לאלוהיכם, אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים, אני אדוני אלוהיכם אמת, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת. אמת באמון הכל סוד קיים עלינו, כי אדוני אלוהינו באין זולתו, ואנחנו ישראל עמו. We'll continue with the reading over page 156 in silence. When your children witness your presence, they praise your name in gratitude. Moshe, Miriam, and Israel sang to you together, Mi kamocha ba'elim Adonai, who is like you, O God, on page 158. Dai, 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 yai, dai, 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 dai. Adonai, mi kamocha ne'edar b'kodesh, norat tehilot oseh pele, norat tehilot oseh pele, yai dai dai, malchotecha ra'ovanecha, bogea yam lifnei Moshe Miriam, zehelianu ve'amenu, Sehelianu ve'amru, yai dai 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 dai, yai dai dai yai dai 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 dai, yam bai dai 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 yai dai dai dai, yai dai 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 dai, yai dai dai, yam bai dai 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 dai, yai dai 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 dai. ונמלוך לעולם בהר, ונאמר כיפת אדוני את יעקב, וגאלו מיד חסד ממנו. ברוך אתה אדוני, גאל הגואל ישראל. Mikamocha is the blessing for the redemption. And in these days of Tisha B'Av, 9 days, we remember that there is not Geula, redemption, without Gola, without diaspora, without exile. We'll talk about that tomorrow in Lunch and Learn. So that's a preview. You still can RSVP, right? On page 160, we dedicate a moment for the prayer for our inner peace. Ashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leShalom, on page 160.
Ashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leShalom, ve'amidenu shomreinu lechaim.
Ashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leShalom, ve'amidenu shomreinu lechaim, ufros alenu sukat shlomecha, ותקננו בעצה טוב מלפניך. אשכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום, והעמידנו שומרנו לחיים. אשכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום, והעמידנו שומרנו לחיים, ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך, ותקננו בעצה טובה מלפניך. אשכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום, והעמידנו שומרנו לחיים. ברוך אתה אדוני הפורס סוכת שלום עלינו ועל כל עמו ישראל ועל ירושלים. And before we go directly into the tefillah, into the Amida, we remember that this is a special Amida. This is an Amida of Shabbat. And we try to focus our prayers and to center our intentions, remembering that today is a special day, and that our intentions and prayers make this night of Friday into a night of Shabbat. We remember our covenant for generations to convert this night of Friday in Shabbat on page 162 with Beshamru B'nai Israel. את השבת. Beshamru B'nai Israel את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם, ברית עולם ביני ובין בני ישראל, אותי לעולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, וביום השביעי שבת שבת ויהי נפש, שבת ויהי נפש. יאי די 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 rise for Tfilat Amida on page 164.
Adonai, Sefatai Divta, Ufia Giti Hilatena. Adonai, open up my lips, and my mouth may declare your praise.
Grant abundant peace to Israel, your people forever. For you are the sovereign God of all peace. May it be pleasing to you to bless your people Israel in every season and moment with your peace. Baruch atah Adonai, Mevarech et amo Israel. Bless Shalom. Blessed are you, Adonai, who blesses your people Israel with peace.
Oh, say shalom, shalom.
dedicate a moment of our tefillah. Remember those that are dealing with illness, those that are in need of healing. If you have a name that you'd like to share tonight, please do so. With their names in your ears, in this room, in our heart. Sing together on page 371, Misheverach. Shlema min hashamayim. We wish them a complete and fast recovery. Shabbat Shalom, again. You know, one of the nice things of Shabbat is that you can say Shabbat Shalom as much as you want and it's fine. And you can start to do that on Thursday or Wednesday. So there is a nice conversation about how and when you are allowed to start to say Shabbat Shalom. And it is actually when you assume after Tuesday, this assumption has to happen after Tuesday, when you assume after Tuesday that you are not going to see a specific person until Shabbat or until after Shabbat. So you can greet them, him, her, with Shabbat Shalom. He was attacking me. So I'm not doing the Bar Torah today because we have Rabbi Peter Levy to share with us some thoughts. But before, we invited to come Peter. So it's interesting that we have Peter specifically in this. Is it working? Really? I'm sorry about that, Jordan. I didn't know. Can you? Which one should I use now? I'm confused. I'm sorry, I'm confused. So can I take it like this? No. Okay, fine. So it looks good, but it doesn't feel good. No, we are kind of a complex relationship, this thing and me. We are developing that. And, eventually, it's already a few months that he and I are like, I don't feel it anymore. Yeah, so that's a good. We are making some progress. So do you know which Torah portion is this week? The Varim. That's right. And this Shabbat specifically is called Shabbat Chazon, and we will talk about that tomorrow. But let's talk today about the Varim. So you know the word Varim for a few places in the Torah. What is the most popular place for Varim? Do you remember how the Ten Commandments are named in Hebrew? Aseret Adivrot. It's the same root. Dalet, ve, bet, b, reish, r. Dvarim, Parashat Dvarim. Aseret Adivrot is one of the places in which we learn about Dvarim. And what means Dvarim? What? Words. Well, in certain, ledaver is to speak. So, davar can be a word, and it can be a thing. How was my TH? A thing. A thing. It can be a thing. So, if you see my teacher, tell her. She will be very proud. So, dvarim can be speech, can be a thing. But we know the root Dalet, Bet, Reish. At this point, I'm sure you remember from other place, a bit earlier. Do you remember? Fine. But in a different context, that's fantastic, but in a different context, the fifth plague. The fifth plague. Dever. Dever. So it's the same root. It's exactly the same root. And when you go and check, we learn that there is a strong, Dever is one of the plagues. It's an epidemic, okay? But we know also that Dever can be a skin disease. And there is a very strong connection in the Torah between gossiping, when you say, and when from your mouth come wrong things, and skin diseases or Dvarim. And it's connected with the idea of an epidemic. So in Parashat Dvarim, we remember, actually, these Dvarim are about something different, but we remember that we need to keep also the way in which we express ourselves. That's pretty much what your organization does. You remind everybody how they are supposed to. Can I invite you already? Would you come? So we do it slowly. I will leave, but slowly. So it's pretty much what Peter's organization does, the Anti-Defamation League. And I had the opportunity to work in Argentina with the Anti-Defamation League. And it was a big scoot. It was a huge privilege to know that there is a bunch of Jews that remind everybody how we are supposed to behave in this world. That's a very simple explanation, and if you want to learn more, and in a more exact way about the ideal, welcome, please, Rabbi Peter Levy. Be welcome to TVT. It's a big pleasure to have you here.
Let me be the fifth person to say for the 27th time, Shabbat Shalom.
And by the way, the head of the board of rabbis in Orange County, and it was the first person to send me an email to Singapore saying welcome to Orange County. So it's wonderful.
I even beat your admissions, your search committee welcoming him. No, they might have welcomed you first. Anyways, it's wonderful to be here. Shabbat Shalom. It was really beautiful. So when I sat down and I opened my prayer book, this is what fell out. Right? The wrapper is the sun-kissed little fruit shoes. So someone had a simcha and they were throwing candy. So I know this is a great place of joy here. That much I know. I also know that the last time I was in this space was for Rabbi Chaim Asa's funeral, Allah Shalom. And he was really a great human being and a great Jewish leader here in the community. And I know with Rabbi Nico that you have not just an accent leading your community here, but someone else with a real vision to help this community and our greater Orange County community and Jewish community really thrive. So it's really wonderful to be back here on such a great, joyous occasion. I felt like I was on a journey, just listening to the music here. I was in a Karlbach shul, and I was in Kol Shema, and I was in Shira Harashah, and I was in B'nai Jeshurun, and I was even in my old synagogue in Phoenix. I mean, the music took me all sorts of places. I was here too. It reminded me of a story about there's a man who was wanting the music of the prayers of tefillah to take him places. And he was earnest, and he would wrap himself in his tallis, and he would always pray to go on that journey, to feel God's presence in his life, and to know that he wasn't just practicing reading Hebrew with a group of people, that he was really on a journey. And then one day, with beautiful stained glass windows like this on Yom Kippur morning with the sun shining through, he felt it. He knew he had journeyed somewhere else. And he felt it, and he felt God speaking to him. And he felt God saying to him, whatever you would like, it is yours. Just ask. And he was so overwhelmed and overcome with that feeling, all he could think was, to have this feeling, God, that you are with me all the time. This is all I could ever want in my life. I couldn't ask for anything else but to have this feeling that you and I, that we're together. This is all I want. And God responds to him, have you ever seen a starving child? And the story ends. He could have had anything. He could have redeemed the world. But he thought his spirituality was having that feeling. I reminded Rabbi Nico, right at the beginning, said, you can move your bodies. Somehow prayer is moving your bodies. Many of us remember the words of reflection of Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel after he marched in Selma. And he said he felt like his legs were praying. That is a legitimate and real expression of what we can do. Hey, I'm a rabbi. I'm a praying guy. I love this stuff. But it's not only this. Our Jewish values push us so many other places. I grew up in a secular Jewish household. Parents who never took me to synagogue once. I got no religious education as a kid. Well, I got no synagogue-based education, but maybe I did get a religious education because my parents were social activists. I remember on the doorbell of our house, we had a sign that said, this house welcomes people of all races, creeds, colors, and religions. And that's what my parents taught me and my brothers. And maybe we didn't talk about Jewish, or we didn't use any Hebrew. And it wasn't many years before I understood really maybe how Jewish the values that we were embracing were. But now I aspire to really meld that together. Right? Our spiritual lives and what we do here and now together on Shabbat and on Chagim, but also what we do the rest of our times. That's why I feel really privileged to work for the Anti-Defamation League, because it's sort of that arm of the Jewish community that is really concerned about social justice and what's going on in our world. Right? It's your arm. Right? That's what it is. That's what it's all about. And it hasn't strayed from its mission since it began in 1913. It began with a simple notion: to stop the defamation of the Jewish people and to secure justice and fair treatment to all. And over this 102 years, or 103 now, it's really emerged as the nation's premier civil rights organization and human relations agency. It fights anti-Semitism and all forms of bigotry. It defends our democratic ideals and fights to protect the civil rights of all human beings. That's what it's all about. In a quick word, or six of them, right? What the Anti-Defamation League, or the ADL, really embraces is to decrease anti-Semitic attitudes and incidents that we have in our communities. And we do that through education and through confronting it, to neutralize campaigns that delegitimize the state of Israel or marginalize members of the Jewish community. So we're taking on BDS, the boycott, divest, and sanctions. Increase the abilities of American Jews and our community to respond to those words of defamation, anti-Semitism, or delegitimization, to help educate us. But our vision is much broader than just the Jewish community. It extends beyond that to decrease bigoted attitudes in the general population wherever you find it, in the U.S. and in Israel. We do that through emphasis through our education programming, starting in preschool, K through 12, campuses, workplaces, and we have a real strong niche in law enforcement, working with law enforcement at all levels. We also want to increase the security and safety of all marginalized groups and communities by advocating for them, by promoting effective laws that protect civil rights, addressing discrimination, hate crimes, hate crime reporting, ensuring a strong separation of church and state, and assisting law enforcement in reducing bias. It's a big challenge these days that we're confronting in this country. And to take on extremism and terrorism. And then lastly, a new venture of the ADL is to really increase the civility, particularly online, between the responses and respond properly to cyber hate. Right? Sort of the new venue that we have in our world. Unfortunately, if you've been following the news, right, our domestic acts of terrorism have been mostly inspired by what they learned through social media and online. The groups they identify with, they find there. That is the new place that we have to be forcing or in putting a lot of our efforts. We have to, what's gone on just the past week, 2 weeks, I feel like I just have to address a few things with you because there's so much things going on now that are on our minds, and certainly my mind, and the Anti-Defamation Leagues. Like many of you, if you've been reading about it, took personal offense to the manifesto that we got from the Movement for Black Lives, the platform that was just produced. Not just me and the ADL, practically the entire Jewish community, for perhaps the first time ever, really stood together in the offense that was taken. As you know, right, the Movement for Black Lives, which is a very loose association and collective of over 50 different organizations, released a detailed platform called A Vision for Black Lives, Policy Demands for Black Power and Freedom and Justice, in which the United States and Israel together were accused of being complicit in the genocide that's taking place on the Palestinian people. And that is simply repellent and a completely inaccurate label of Israel's policy to try and call that genocide. Side note, the Palestinian population since the state of Israel began 68 years ago has tripled in population. It is the farthest thing from genocide. And then the gross mischaracterization to label Israel as an apartheid state. Words matter. Devarim matter. Now, these clearly aren't the main focus of a 40,000-worded document, but including it distracts it from addressing the real racial issues that our country is facing. And certainly there are other groups, many groups that are associated with the Black Lives Matters, who have not signed on to this platform and are exploring radically different approaches to achieve their objectives here domestically. I personally reached out to many of our African American churches and leaders here in Orange County and found that none of them bought into, were consulted, or had anything to do with this platform. In fact, they believe in coalition building and working together and focusing on what the real issues are that we have going on in our own country. And the first time they learned of this was the same time you and I did, when they read about it and heard about it in the press. Now, the ADL and me, and I venture all of you also feel very strongly that as a society, we have to address issues of mass incarceration and a wide range of racial inequalities and socioeconomic issues facing African Americans today. We don't support the platform, and we forcefully reject their criticism of being complicit in genocide or Israel being an apartheid state. Right? There are some in the Black Lives Movement who've expressed anti-Israel sentiments, right? They're not factually based. They're based on some other made-up narrative. Right? We can't deny that we face this type of anti-Semitism on the left. But that is unrelated to the challenges that our communities of color are facing here in the U.S. And that's where I and the Anti-Defamation League, and God willing you, we're all on the same page about this, that we have to stay committed. We can't walk away from these issues, but we have to stay committed to fighting the scourge of racism, discrimination, bigotry in all its forms that we experience in our world. Because if we don't stand up and speak out for the rights of others, then we have no footing to stand on when we speak out in the face of anti-Semitism and anti-Israel as a legitimate state in the community of nations. We have no place to stand if we don't take on all bigotry. We remain deeply committed to addressing many of the civil rights issues and the racial inequalities, particularly facing African Americans right now. We cannot and will not walk away from it. We must address these issues. Why? Because we know what it's like to be strangers in a strange land. You know, I'm reminded, I heard a couple months ago, the ambassador from Israel, who talked about the 3 Ds that we all have to be mindful of. Demonization, double standard, and denial. That when we see those applied, when you demonize a group of people by accusing them of being murderers in genocide, that's not based in facts anywhere. When you deny that they have a legitimate claim to the land, which is the other thing that just happened recently. I don't know if you heard about it. You might have thought it was a joke when you heard that Abbas and the Palestinian Authority is trying to sue the British government for the Balfour Declaration. It sounds like a joke. So I know you know the history, but let me just review a little bit of what it is. The Balfour Declaration came about in 1917. It was a statement by the Foreign Secretary of Great Britain, Lord Balfour, to the reestablishment of a Jewish homeland in the historic home of the Jewish people. It was called Palestine back then. We also know it as the land of the people Israel. Now, this declaration coming from a world power, which only months later ended up in control of the Holy Land, taking away from the Turks coming out of World War I, was a turning point for the Zionist movement, whose central goal since its founding in 1897 by Theodor Herzl was getting recognition of a central political power of the Jewish people's rights to return to their own homeland. Now, admittedly, the relationship between the early Jewish settlements in Israel and the British Mandate authorities were, let's call them, challenging at best for many years. But that Balfour Declaration, that idea that the Jewish people had a historic right to return to their homeland, was such a significant statement. And the fact that just 2 weeks ago, Abbas and the Palestinian Authority lobbied to get the whole Arab League together after almost 100 years of this Balfour Declaration, right? Other Devarim, words, to get them to sue them under that it's a lie that the Jewish people have any historic claim to the land. I'm not even sure what to make of that. The irony is in 1947, the Arabs living in Palestine at that time rejected the UN plan that would have given a Jewish state and an Arab state side by side. They rejected that at that time. And since then, we've seen a whole history of things rejecting the notion. Really, what was untenable to them was that there could be a Jewish state, a denial of the Jewish people's historic connection to the land and right to have a state. And they've tried all sorts of methods to get there, from boycotts to UN resolutions to international condemnations to terrorism, all of which are harmful, but none of which can change the facts on the ground that we have a thriving and vibrant country, a state called Israel. And such efforts are a real distraction from addressing and improving the situation on the ground. And now trying to sue the British government. Demonization, denial, double standard. Right? The platform came out, singled out one country, Israel, with a whole host of countries. Nothing about Iran, North Korea, Sudan, Congo. One country, applying a double standard. When we see any of those three Ds, we know we have to perk up and we have to speak out. That's what it's all about. That's what the Anti-Defamation League is all about. That's why I need you in this synagogue and everyone with the great integrity that we have to speak out and do something. You know, the ADL is your 911. In the event of an emergency, you call us. In the event of hatred, bigotry, or anti-Semitism, we are there to support you in any way we can. But we're also the 411, and that's the part that people don't know about so much. We are actively educating in schools, in communities, in workplaces, on college campuses, with law enforcement at all levels of law enforcement, from the FBI down to your local police department right here, to university police on campuses, to student services on campuses, educating them about bias and civil rights. That's what we're all about. I'm glad you mentioned the Aseret HaDibrot, what we popularly call in English the Ten Commandments. Sometimes I feel really skeptical. You hear out there in our world that America is founded on I believe in the Ten Commandments, even though few people who say that can recite all 10 of them. We won't test ourselves now, for lack of American values are founded on the Ten Commandments, those Judeo-Christian values. I know the Ten Commandments, and actually, if that's the case, I think they've failed us. The Ten Commandments are mostly in the negative. Don't do this. Don't murder. No inappropriate sexual relationships. No adultery. No coveting. No stealing. No lying. It's predominantly in the negative. It doesn't so much tell us what we ought to do. I mean, it tells us to honor our parents, to observe Shabbat, but it doesn't tell us what to do. It tells us mostly what to omit. And that's just not enough to bring redemption to a fractured and broken world. There's nothing about love or mercy or compassion in the Ten Commandments. And when you look at the state of affairs going on in our country and the world right now, of education inequality, economic inequality, inequality in criminal justice, simply omitting evil acts will not rectify these situations. Simply obeying the thou shalt nots of the Ten Commandments isn't going to bring the healing and wholeness that our world needs, and certainly not to fulfill our mission of who we are as a Jewish people, to live in the image of God. They don't do it. As a community, as a country, as a civilization on this planet, we need another foundation to plant our tradition with the values and purposes that we know we have and embrace. The 10 Commandments don't have enough. It's bereft of love, mercy, care, and generosity. Aharon Applefield, a Holocaust Shoah survivor, a renowned Israeli author, he was questioned after the Holocaust how one was to go on living with meaning. And he remembered the words of a doctor from a religious background who sailed to Israel with him in 1946. And this doctor said to him, "We didn't see God when we expected him, so we have no choice but to do what God was supposed to do. We will protect the weak. We will love. We will comfort. From now on, the responsibility is ours." I feel privileged here in Orange County to work for the Anti-Defamation League that is based on those foundations. Because if we don't protect, love, and comfort, no one else will. Shabbat Shalom.
So if you go coming all the way. You know, Peter is pointing something very important. And here he reminds Shosha Heschel and says, we daven, we pray with our legs. He reminds an important thing that Larry Hoffman, Rabbi Lawrence Hoffman says, that when we are here in the synagogue, we are just practicing our spirituality. And when we go out is when we actually exercise our real spirit. So take his words to your heart and find out more about the ideal, and would love to learn how to support more and how to be more connected to the ideal. It's a great opportunity. We'll continue our service. Brianna, Sophia, Max, I'd like to invite you to open the altar for Aleinu. I'm inviting them. You want to come too? She does it every week. But you want to come too? I invited them. Okay. But please rise. But don't open in 586. Open your Sidurim on page 378. So we wanted Rihanna. Rihanna is leaving. You stand this side with me. Max, you stay this side with me. Rihanna, no, you stay there, alone. Rihanna is leaving tomorrow. Not tomorrow. It's leaving next week. To college in Arizona, and we, our community, wanted to recognize this moment in your life in which you are moving to a new house. This time in the Jewish calendar is a time of moving, of recognizing new houses and remembering always from where we came from, and remembering our journey, and remembering that we are obligated to create new houses, but we are obligated, and it's fine to yearn and to miss and to come back home as much as you can. And so TBT wanted to give you Birkat Habayit, a blessing for your new house. And we are going, you have your Sidurim on 378? So we're going to bless you, all of us together, with Birkat HaDerech. May it be your will, our God, and God of our ancestors,
that you lead us in peace and help us reach out to our destination, safely, joyfully, and peacefully. May you protect us on our leaving and on our return, and rescue us from any harm. And may you bless the work of our hands, and may our deeds merit honor for you. Praise to you, Adonai, protector of Israel.
Baruch atah Adonai, Shomer Israel, La'ad. Have a wonderful beginning. Can you hug her? I want to hug her too. Now you hug the rabbi. A wonderful beginning. We expect you to come back very often. On page 586, open your Siddurim for Aleinu Leshaveach. Prestigio.
Aleinu לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי ארצות, ולא שמנו
כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל עמונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. בשמיים ביוסר הארץ, ומושב יקרו
בשמיים עמה, ושכינתו
זו, ושכינתו זו, בגובי מרומים. הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, אמת מלכנו, אפס זולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, בידתה היום, והשבותה אל לבביך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים, בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ, ועל הארץ מתחת. אין עוד ונאמר, והיה אדוני מלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא, ביום ההוא, יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד. Congratulations. Congratulations. You may be seated. At this moment of our service, we dedicate a moment to remember the souls of dear members of our congregation having a Yorkshire this week.
Remember Fred Engel, Hiram Rubens, Judy Glick, James Grossflam, Rose Emmer, Celia Rosenberg, Joe Boise, Arlene A. Rubin, Jean Rosenberg, David Hirschfield, Ann Edith Mann, Adelaide Saltman, Loretta Goldman, Max Margolin, Max Segler, Virginia Roybal, Shirley Hulker, Rebecca Zills, Nathan Weinfeld, Bessie Lou Human, Louis Fried, Werner Roman, Mary Shavitsky, Rabbi Bernard Goldsmith, Regina Gruber Samuels, David Sherman, Celia Ant, Erwin Lieberman, Evelyn Meyerson, Yafa Aleyev, and Marilyn Robb. And in the Shloshim, the first 30 days, Samuel Mailer, father of Diana Cantor, Morris Kirshen, father of David Kirshen, Barbara Subek, sister-in-law of Jane Goodman and aunt of Carrie Klein, Howard S. Miller, father of Steve Miller, uncle of Natalie Miller.
If you are doing the first 7 days of mourning of Shiva, please rise. If you are doing the first 30 days of mourning, please rise. If you are doing the first year of mourning, please rise. If you have a yahrzeit this week, please rise. Now you can support our fellows by sitting or standing, joining us for Mourner's Kaddish on page 598. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, בעלמא דברה חירותי, בימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב, באמרו אמן. יהא שמי רבה מבורך לעולם עולמי עלמיה. יתברך, בישתבח, ביתפאר, ביתרומם, ביתנשא, ביתהדר, ביתעלה, ביתהלל, שמי דקודשה בריחו. לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושילתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דאמירם בעלמה באמרו אמן. יהא שלמה רבה מן שמיה, בחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל, באמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, באמרו אמן. זיכרונם לברכה, may the memories be for a blessing. You may be seated. So a few very quick reminders. Tomorrow we are getting together at 9 for Torah and bagels. And in parallel to that, we have our monthly family Shabbat service. So if your children, grandchildren, little people are around, just bring them. It's a wonderful opportunity to share some music and some Shabbat together. Welcome back, Gabi. Don't ever go again to a vacation. So, welcome back to the community. She was like, we miss you.
I missed you guys too.
So, number 2, we have after our Shacharit Shabbat service, we had lunch and learn. And this is going to be great. You know, there's sometimes for lunch and learn, I come with something that I feel that I should share with you. This is one of these times. You know, it's really an opportunity to learn together. We learn a little bit about our emotional connection with Jerusalem, and how we, as we name that, how from Fullerton we keep building Jerusalem. So if you're curious about the title, come tomorrow. 2 more things. Rabbi David Levine will be with us next week. It's a great joy. David is coming to lead our Torah boot camp, so please join us. We have also our first Tot Shabbat of the year next week. Please join us for that too. And during the next week, not this one, the week of the 20th, no, the week. No. That was in the Torah boot camp. We're going to the Torah boot camp. So on Sunday, we start our Torah boot camp with Rabbi Professor David Levine. He's going to be our scholar in residence coming from Israel, from the Hebrew Union College, especially to share an entire week with us and to help us to increase our knowledge in all the different kinds of Jewish sources, to help us to own what belongs to us. So please join us. We still have some room. And afterwards, on another 2 weekends, we have our community celebration / rabbinical installation. And I say it this way because what we celebrate is our community. And the occasion is that we have a new rabbi a year, and it's fantastic. And we celebrate our partnership. And you know, I love you, and I love to be here. But we celebrate our decision to share life here in this place. We celebrate our community. So if you don't come, it doesn't work. You need to come. So make sure that you RSVP. Yes, because of the kind of catering they're doing, we need to RSVP with time. It's not like lunch and learn that we make in the last moment. We can organize that. This time it works a bit different. So please RSVP with time. And remember that when you are not here, we are not the same community. Your presence really, really matters. So make sure that you're here. And I forgot to mention, she said it's good to see you. On the 20th, we are doing our young professionals gathering. We're having an Avdalah. So if you're a young professional, feel welcome. If you are not, sorry. So don't come. But young professionals are between 25 and 45. So you have 20 years to be there. So, how old are you?
22.
Oh, 3 years. So we are starting Havaya in September. I don't know when. When? The 10th. So we are presenting our Havaya school, our new Ulpan, our new format for education here at TBT, and we're starting on September 10th. So make sure you come too. And with all that said, lots of information. The most important thing that we decided that we don't do announcements anymore. And we try to keep that decision. So we will conclude our service with Ine Matov Umanaim. We make sure that we are hugging somebody when we finish our services here at TBT. So make sure that you stand next to somebody else and that you are hugging somebody. Don't leave the synagogue without being hugged or hugging anybody. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. אדוני עוש לעמו ייתן, אדוני יברך את עמו בשלום. שבת שלום.
הטוב ובנעים,